Party people, welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, the actual play RPG podcast where the gaming table is always set for two. I am your host as always, Jeff Stormer, and this week on the show, I am joined by Puja for a game of C Issue X. C Issue X is a tabletop role-playing game for one or more players about superhero stories and the people who write them. Whether you are playing solitaire or with a group, the way the game works is you have a deck of playing cards that you draw from to create a superhero, their elaborate, complicated, convoluted backstory, and you draw cards, answer prompts, and this is one of my favorite mechanics in any game ever, physically write notes on a deck of playing cards, basically ruining it with markers and whiteout to create a living document of the complicated comic book history that unfolds before you. The way that you do this is that you continually cycle cards back into your deck, and then you keep drawing cards that have prompts from previous adventures, characters, themes, settings, and you are challenged with finding out how all of these complicated bits fit together again and again and again as your hero's story continues onward and onward and onward. If my tone has not made it clear, I love this game a whole lot. The prompts that the game gives you really flesh out like a vibrant comic book world. They're knowing and imaginative and evocative. The act of destroying a deck of cards and creating this like unique play document or artifact of play is a really fun and beautiful and kind of transgressive thing. It's just a wonderful, beautiful game. One of my absolute favorites, which makes it pretty appropriate that I got to play it with Puja, who is one of my absolute favorite people. Puja is a tabletop streamer, content creator. You can catch her every other Monday on Manapot Studios' Twitch channel for Streets of Gotham, which is a Blades of the Dark inspired crime heist game about a number of hench people to notable Gotham City villains as they kind of cut their way through the city. It is an unbelievably fun time. It is some great players playing a great game and telling some wonderful stories. You can also catch Puja every other Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern on the Nat1 Fun Twitch channel for Running Feywild, or every Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern for Strange Hungers on Total Party Kiss. You can find links to all of those in the show notes. Now, a few quick things before we dive in. One, C Issue X is currently on Kickstarter. You can find a link to that in the show notes. Go check it out. Like I said, this is one of my favorite games. I am so excited to see it on crowdfund. It is almost funded at the time of me recording these words. Go back it, make it a reality. It is a really joyful and fun single-player role-playing game that just allows you to create a little piece of art that you carry with you. I cannot recommend this game enough. Go check that out. That's the link to that in the show notes. Secondly, I do want to mention that we are still in our year-end pledge drive for Party of One. We are raising money for better guest payments, editing support, and to pay Jen and I for our time producing the show. I do want to shout out our latest Patreon backers, Peter Brown and Sean Patrick Kane, for their support on Patreon. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for helping making the show happen, as well as all of the other stuff that I do. Patreon backers get early access to episodes, raw audio from episodes, exclusive podcasts, including Party of None, which is an actual-ish play podcast focused on single-player role-playing games. You'll see C Issue X on there in the very near future, as well as early access to games and other materials as they're written. You can find all of that at patreon.com/JeffStormer. And finally, before we dive in, a little bit of an ad, a little bit of a call out, that now through the end of the year, we are currently in the midst of our year-end Party of One Patreon pledge drive. That's a lot of P sounds in a row. We are raising funds via Patreon and Ko-fi to pay for better guest payments, editing support, and to pay ourselves for our time, which we haven't done in 7 years. As part of that, I've launched a brand new Patreon-exclusive podcast, Party of None, which is a actual-ish solo play podcast focused on single-player RPGs. Expect the first full episode of that to drop on the Party of One feed as an exclusive preview on Monday, October 10th. We also have a ton of goals lined up. We just passed our $250 a month goal of having Alex Perlman come back on the show to play a weird old role-playing game. Our next goal is $300 a month, where Diana Gata, Super Dylan, and I will sit down on Twitch live for a live game of Guys in Chairs for the show. So I really hope that you will consider heading to patreon.com/JeffStormer or ko-fi.com/JeffStormer to support the year-end drive and help us do bigger, better, and cooler things in the coming year. And with all of that said, let's go ahead and throw it over to me in the past so that he can get started with the show. Take it past me. Thanks, future me. This week, I am, the most excited that I can be. I am sitting down with Puja. Puja, thank you so much for coming on Party of One.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. I am so excited to be here.
I am legitimately thrilled. You know, something like we have played enough games together at this point, and that I was just like, this is going to be just a good time with a friend, and I'm the most excited that I can be.
Yeah, same.
So,
Exactly.
why don't you, at the top of the episode, take a moment and let our lovely listeners at home know about anything you've got going on that you might want them to know about?
Okay. Hi, friends. Hi, listeners. I am Puja, usually found on the internet at Puja on Twitter, at Pujabberwocky on all other spaces, and I basically just do a lot of make-believe roleplay on the internet. Like, it's just fun telling stories that are more interesting than my own.
It's seriously so fun, is the thing.
Exactly. And when this comes out, I will be doing several things. Primarily, you can find me on Saturdays over on Total Party Kiss, where I'm in a D&D 5e horror campaign set in a homebrew world, but it's an all-queer table, and so we are specifically exploring horror through the lens of queer storytelling, and it is beautiful, and it is safe, and it is so brainwormy. It's the best.
That's so dope.
It is very, very good. And the other persistent things I'm in every other week on Manapot Studios, currently on Monday, but there may be a schedule change, so do watch out for that. I play Streets of Gotham, which is a Blades in the Dark light gameplay of where we are a bunch of henchfolk to famous Gotham villains, probably your favorite Gotham villains. And I'm particularly proud of my own part in it because I play Manny Quinn, who is the wife of one Harley Quinn. And surprisingly, they have a very healthy relationship, I'm happy to say. It's lovely.
The name puts the biggest smile on my face. Like, I really can't emphasize enough how good the name is.
Oh, I'm not going to name names, but one of our players did not realize until last week that it was a pun.
That makes me extremely happy.
Yeah, they just thought of her as Manny, and you know what? I respect that.
I love it. I appreciate it. I respect it.
Oh, and then the last thing I was going to plug was every other Wednesday over on Nat One Fun, I'm in a campaign called Running Feywild, which is just a absolutely chaotic Feywild campaign. So lots of fun things in lots of different places. It's a good time.
It is a good time. And this week we are going to have an especially good time because we are both going to channel our inner comic book and superhero nerds to play C Issue X, which is a role-playing game for one or more players about superheroes and the people that write them. We both have a deck of playing cards in front of us. We both have some markers in front of us. I've got some whiteout in front of me. And we are going to ruin a deck of cards while we create a little bit of superhero mythology.
Yeah.
So the way the game works is, this is a game about modern-day superhero comics. We are going to be playing a particular hero and the writer tasked with scripting their adventures against an escalating pile of background continuity. We are going to draw cards, and those cards are going to inform the events that occur in an ongoing superhero comic. As that happens, like as plot elements get introduced, as major moments come up in the life of the hero, we are going to literally write those things down onto the playing cards themselves. That is what we're going to do when I say we're going to ruin these decks of cards, and I could not be more excited. And as we are doing that, as we are writing things down, we're going to be shuffling the cards and redrawing them so that as cards with things written on them come up again and again and again, we will keep integrating in those plot elements and creating that really complex, interwoven superhero mythology that is so special to my heart. And so, with that, now that we've kind of explained the deal, why don't we go ahead and dive in?
Yeah.
So, the way that the game begins is we are going to be building our personal deck, and the way that we're going to be building our personal deck is we are going to be exploring our heroes' origin stories. So we've each pulled 2 cards each from the 4 suits in a deck of playing cards. So I've got the Queen and 5 of Spades, the Queen and 9 of Clubs, the 6 and 7 of Hearts, and the Ace and 8 of Diamonds.
All right, and I can go through mine.
Yeah.
I've got the Queen of Hearts and the 3 of Hearts, the 9 of Clubs and the 10 of Clubs, the 7 of Spades and the 8 of Spades, and the Ace of Diamonds and the 8 of Diamonds.
And what we are going to do is immediately, we're just going to start marking up cards immediately because we are going to take one of each of those suits of cards, and we are going to write down a piece of information on each of them. I think we'll go back and forth and define them. We'll kind of interweave these two as we kind of bounce back and forth and fill out our respective pieces of hero information. So we will start with the suit of spades, which is our superpowers suit. Spades always represent superpowers and superhero-y things. So if a spade comes up, it represents, action and adventure and powers and all that kind of stuff. So what we're going to write on one of our spades is what our superpowers are, if they are sorcery or gadgets, or what the thing is that we do. And I've already got an idea, so I'm going to write it down. I'll talk through it, and then I'll write it down. So here's what I'm thinking, Puja.
Okay.
I'm looking at the deck of cards that I have in front of me, and I talked to you a little bit about this before we recorded, but I've had this deck of cards that I've used on every card-based Party of One episode since 2017, and this feels like the right moment to take them to the next level. And on it, it's got this drawing of like a jester sitting on a wasp, and it's been this weird thing that I've looked at for the last 5 years. And I've been like, and it's very strange. It's such a weird piece of decoration that, like, when I was like, what kind of superhero do I want to make? I was like, I want it to bring in that imagery because it's so kind of weird and surreal. Mm-hmm. So I Googled laughing bug, because I kind of Googled clown bug and laughing bug. I did a few combinations, and the laughing cicada is a variety of cicada. And so the visual that I got was like, because, like, thinking about cicadas as, like, a thing that, like, emerge every few years and generally, like, cause chaos, especially across farming communities, as a guy that grew up in a farming community, like, that idea of, like, a cloud of bugs coming and just, like, causing chaos. I imagined, like, a farmer seeing a cloud of bugs and then getting swept up in, like, a swarm of these, like, screeching cicada bugs and becoming a little bit like a trickster god.
Ooh.
And that's kind of the energy. And I mentioned this to you as well, because, like, Sandman just came out a few days ago as of this recording, so that kind of horror comic energy is in the air for me. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where I'm chasing it. So I think that with that set, like, that's the aesthetic that I'm going for. So as I say all of that, I'm going to throw it over to you and say, do you have any initial impulses that you want to chase when you're thinking about superhero designs?
Well, one of the ones that I was thinking about just based on themes that I'm exploring in my own other horror game is, I like the idea of personal metamorphosis and coming to terms with that. And so maybe there might be spoilers for the other game in here, but, I like the idea of my superhero character having a shifting ability. But specifically, of course, because I have to do this, everything has to be colored with my own background. So specifically, the ability to shift into a white tiger.
That's sick. I love that. That's cool as hell. All right. Well, then I'm thinking I'm whiting out this queen of spades right now. It immediately feels wrong. And it's putting a giant smile on my face. I'm going to grab this green marker. I'm going to shake this card until it dries out a little bit. And I'm going to write on this card. I haven't fully grasped what it means yet, but I'm going to write chaos clouds. Because, like, that idea of, like, the visuals of, like, the cloud of like bugs and, like, kind of chaos magic related to that is very appealing to me, and that is what I am putting on this Queen of Hearts card. I've written it, show it to you. Nice. The card is marked, and I am pleased with it. So I think that it is a little bit in the nature of chaos, a little bit unpredictable. I think it is, and it can take a few different forms depending on the thing. I think that it kind of has that energy, but the one thing that I really like is because as we were also talking about this off mic, as two Doctor Who nerds, that idea of appearing where you are needed is like my jam, right?
Yeah.
Like that idea of like a cloud emerges and some cicadas yell and then somebody steps out of an alleyway is like,
pretty
that's
cool.
my everything.
It's pretty cool. And in the very similar vein, the idea of a untapped reserve of strength that you learn to use in those moments of dire need. It's kind of like that, the whole, the thing of Doctor Who, where what's, to me, sometimes more interesting in the story of the Doctor is the bravery and the story of the companions, who are usually, well, depending on who's writing, not special snowflakes and very normal humans. I like that idea of somebody, we're going to be talking metaphors, so being able to tap into the deepest reserves of who they are in order to channel what they need to. But as far as like the equivalent of Chaos Cloud, I had this image of tigers, cats generally with the pouncing. I love the idea of there being this dreaded silence, like a powerful silence where when a cat is mad.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's great. That's yeah.
It's like it's like the silence of knowing that the other shoe is about to drop. Predatory silence, maybe.
Predatory silence. Predatory silence is great. Oh, and the idea of writing that like as a power is like extremely cool. Of like that vibe, like you said, like that vibe that like the almost like the world goes silent in those moments. Like that's a very cool like comic book aesthetic, right? Like I can almost visualize on the page like
the little asterisks with the little like
and the
like line.
I can almost picture like sequences where you're doing your hero thing, like all the word bubbles and the onomatopoeias drop out as like everything goes quiet as you just like go into action. Like it's so cool.
It's so cool.
So now we're going to define a person that is important to us. This is going to be our heart card. Every time a hearts card comes up, it is an important person in the story. It is like prominent characters. These are going to become our villains and our recurring supporting characters, love interests, all of that kind of stuff. So you're going to mark the card with the name of a friend or family member you care about, and then we're going to talk through what makes them special to you.
Okay.
I get the vibe. I'm visualizing this like plains farmer. It's got to be, I got to draw a little, I got to tip the cap to Superman a little bit. Like it's like a Great Plains, Kansas farmer, right?
I immediately pictured like a plaid, pearl snap, button down, and jeans.
Yeah. Exactly that before he gets kind of swept up. I think I'm going to go he, his pronouns and like gets swept up. And I think that he has a husband at home. Like, I think that like part of this journey is, and I'm going to write down the husband's name as Henry. I'm going to go Henry Cyrus.
Nice.
And I think that like there is a romantic element there, and because and this is part of the joy of this game with a fellow comic book fan, is just talking about from a writer's angle. I am always drawn towards, and this might just be because I am an ancient being, but like I love I love seeing in comic books like older married couples that are allowed to be married couples. Yes. I feel like for a lot of comics, like they kind like, and it's understandable for like that pull of drama, right? But like I feel like a lot of comic books kind of pull away from that idea of like these are two people in like a healthy married relationship, and that is kind of what I picture between these two, is like they are married, they've been married for a long time, and they are happy in that, right? Like if there is drama in this relationship, it is not due to like are we going to break up? It's like, well, we're married. Like if that is going to come up, it's going to come up in a much more serious context.
Yes. I mean, I'm a sucker for that, hence the whole character I play in Gotham. That I love that. So your character, you said, is the husband?
Yeah. I think they are husbands. I think he is I think that there is I also that gives me the idea that like he comes back home, and that is a nice touch, right? Like this, that wandering here. He's not a doctor. He's not a person that wanders forever. Like he has a place that he comes back to.
I love that. Well, if you're going the established relationship route, which I love, I'm gonna go for another beloved trope. How about rivals to lovers? Because who doesn't love that?
Who doesn't love that?
Who doesn't love a good rivals to lovers? I'm thinking, because you gotta go with a good gender fluid name. We're gonna go with Rain. And they are her former, I want to say maybe like post-college age graduate school rival turned to much more because, you know, you realize a lot of we're going with the thin line between love and hate.
Love that. All about it.
Classic. And so we're also going to go on again, off again. And for the dramas, let's go off at the moment.
Love it. All right. So once we've written that down, then we're going to write down one of our diamonds. Diamonds are values, principles we hold dear, virtues we try to live up to, lessons that we've learned. So you're going to write down on one of your diamonds an ideal that gives you strength when things are bad. And I've written one down that, like, I'm interested in exploring, but we're going to mark that card with a principle you believe in, and then we're going to talk about how we learned that ideal.
Okay.
The thing that I wrote down was a world of mystery, and I put a few like question marks on the thing. I kind of, there's that vibe, like it ties in nicely to kind of that Sandman-y vibe that I've been kind of like visualizing in my head of like, this is a strange world. This is a world of weird things, right? Like I am someone that was sucked up by a cloud of screaming bugs, and now suddenly like I am connected to the aether of the world in some way, and like I kind of get the vibe that this character is in it, that he's here to see it all, right? Like I had an experience watching when the first trailer for Thor Love and Thunder came out. Like I had a real experience cause like they didn't show the villain at all, and like they didn't like reveal like what the plot of the film was going to be, and it was largely just shots of Thor kind of gliding through space.
Yep.
And in my head, and like I am a sucker, and I was like, oh, that's what the movie's going to be. And I was like, that is such a weird idea of like seeing a hero that just is kind of like seeing things to see them. And I was like, that's such a cool like thing that idea has kind of burrowed into my head, and I kind of want to put it here as like a character, like this sort of weird chaos entity thing that is kind of just seeing the strangeness of the world.
I love that. And it once again, the themes are the themes, like in terms of Sandman, in terms of like Doctor Who, you've got explorations of the world and discoveries of the unknown being its own driving force. Yeah. And I love that. To kind of stick with the whole personal discovery, I feel like your character might be doing a lot of external investigating, and mine's going to be focused inwards. And what struck me is the phrase, light through darkness.
Ooh.
And kind of this idea of accepting, like having to work through instead of fight the darkest parts of you to get to the light.
That's so cool. That's sick.
Peace.
And so with that, finally, we are going to mark down our club. And on one of our club cards, we are going to write down a place that is special for us. Clubs always represent places, they represent locations, the scene of the battle, the villain's headquarters, wherever we end up, places will be tied to hearts. So you're going to define a place that is important to you. And this I have to think about for a bit. So if you have a place in your head, a place that your character spends a lot of time.
I went through a couple of ideas quickly in my head, and the one that is the most ridiculous, and which is why I feel like You gotta go with that instinct.
Gotta go with that instinct sometimes. Sometimes it's the right option.
Yeah, it's a co-op.
Okay. All right.
Not a store co-op, a living co-op.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm into it.
It's like this very large, we're gonna be, since this could be anywhere, it's a very large old home, probably to somebody rich at one point, kind of run down, not the best from the outside, has been repurposed in the interior to home a bunch of grown adults who have formed their own community and family together.
Now, you said, like, when you said the words not a food co-op, like, I'm thinking about this character and I'm going to pull this in the other ridiculous direction.
Yes.
And like, I'm writing this down as, like, not a specific location, but, like, an archetypal one.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of, like, it being a farmer's market.
Yes.
Is really, like, the idea that, like, he like can be found in like a farm, like in a given farmer's market is really fun, just as like a place that he kind of is a sucker for.
Yeah.
That's a really fun little touch.
Here's the question. What booth does he man?
I think that what it is like in his hometown, which we are going to, in his hometown, which we're going to label Morrison, Kansas. In Morrison, he mans it's like a berry stand. Like they sell seasonal berries, like different berries depending on the season. So sometimes cherries and sometimes blueberries. Like it varies by the season, right? And I think that like as he kind of wanders through the aether, I think that like a lot of times where he, when he's not sort of being pulled somewhere for like a sort of mystical reason, you might find him like across the country at a farmer's market in Alaska, just like kind of strolling the different booths and like looking at things as just kind of a lot of the sort of what I'd call the Doctor Who interstitial shots where it's like you see the brief shot of the Doctor on an alien planet is him at like a market in some like in some distant part of America or some distant part of the world, like just like happily conversing about things with people and like checking out local fruits and trying various like street foods and just like kind of walking local farmers markets across the world and maybe across the supernatural world as well. Like the idea of like a Hellboy style like goblin market where he just happens to be like at a booth being like, this witch's brew is outstanding. That's
amazing.
That's very, very cute and fun to me, and I like it a lot.
Does his husband make jams?
Oh, absolutely. That is, thank you for asking, because it is important to put this on the table that yes, and it is a little touch that, like, he will leave a little jar of jam at, like, different markets around the sort of multiverse as, like, when he stops by, he's like, here's a jar of jam, enjoy it, it is fresh, it's boysenberry. Like, it's his little gift to the markets that he stops by along his journeys.
I love that. Like, somebody converses with him and they share, like, berry growing, I don't know, secrets, that it's like, oh, here, this is from my home to you.
That's a cute little touch, and I love it deeply.
Oh, it's like a host present.
All right. So now we're going to shuffle together those 4 cards that we've just marked, along with 4 unmarked cards.
Okay.
And this is going to form our personal deck. This is the deck we're going to pull from. This is the deck we're going to further mark. We are going to eventually add some cards to this deck as we go. And like as we go, we're going to write down memories onto these cards and more information onto these cards. But for now, these 8 cards are sort of our personal deck to draw from. And now we're going to draw our first card to start the game proper, which is I'm going to have you draw 2 cards.
Okay.
I have drawn my unmarked 5 of spades and my unmarked 9 of clubs.
I have drawn my unmarked 3 of hearts and my unmarked ace of diamonds.
So you are going to assign one of those cards to the following statements.
Okay.
Either spades, superhero shenanigans were essential to you getting powers. Either hearts, this person was responsible for you gaining powers. Diamonds, you gained your powers to defend this ideal, or clubs, this place is the source of your powers.
I like it being a person. We're going to go with hearts.
And I have spades and clubs in front of me. I think I'm going to pull from... because if unmarked, I'm going to mark this card with a weird substance or concoction, and I like that a lot because of what I was already talking about. That feels like the right card to mark.
That makes sense.
So I am going to... Did you say your heart card was unmarked or marked?
Unmarked.
All right, then I am going to ask you some questions.
Okay.
I am going to mark my 5 of spades with just the big old word cicadas. Or I'm going to put down the cicadas because I think that adds like a weird If you put the in front of a thing, it makes it weird and supernatural, and that feels right.
It's accurate.
So I'm going to ask you, you're going to mark down the name. You're going to mark down a name. The game recommends a scientist or sorcerer, but I will leave that entirely up to you and then say, like, was this intentional or an accident? How do you feel about them, and how do they feel about you?
I was originally, before you said sorcerer, thinking family member, so we're going to marry the two.
Okay.
And this is going to be from her nanny, which is her maternal grandmother. And it is not an accident. It is, in fact, a family boon.
I love it. I love that. I really love that.
I also just really love the idea of the protection of the family being passed down matrilineally. And so this is you would think coming of age, she would have experienced this in her teens. But nah, everyone knows that, we're in this delayed adolescent thing now. The 30s and your 20s. And so, her nanny waited until she was out of school and kind of had the emotional capacity to deal with massive changes.
That's great. That's a really, you know what, Nani, that's a really great touch.
I know. It's let's wait for your frontal lobe to finish developing before throwing this onto you.
That's just good. That's just good family values, is what that is.
So kind.
So how do you feel about them, and how do they feel about you?
I love my nanny, and I understand why she passed this on, because it was my time and to take that mantle from my mother. And I think she loves me too, and there's no love lost here. The feelings of uneasiness, of questioning that come from whether or not I'll have the ability to learn to control this boon, whether I'll have the ability to do no accidental harm, because, like any power that is suddenly thrust upon someone, growing pains are a thing. So there's I think over here the difference is also Nani gave her the power when she was visiting India, so she's not there anymore. So we've also had this thing of distance where things happen and then you can't really get the information from Nani until you have time to FaceTime her, and that involves schedule juggling, and it's not as a hands-on an approach of training as you would like.
All right. And then we should I feel like we should name our characters at this point, because now we're going to dive into our first arc, which is the thing that happens to us when we first get our powers that invite us to use them and sort of embrace being a hero, a superhero. I am going to name my character. I am going to be Jerry Cyrus, the cicada.
I love that, Jerry. I'm gonna go with, because I love spoilies and, interwoven references, I'm gonna go with, Gamna. And let's go with Gamna Mohan. So, Gamna Mohan is, I don't think she has a nickname yet, because that comes with time.
All right.
You gotta have to earn your title.
Yeah. I gotcha. All right. So now we're each gonna play out our first arc.
Yeah.
Do we want to keep going back and forth, or do you want to play out your first arc in full and see how that goes?
I'm done with whatever. It's kind of fun going back and forth.
Let's go back and forth. I like kind of seeing these two stories develop in unison. I think that's a nice little touch, especially because we're gonna bring these characters together at some point. Okay.
Absolutely.
So we're going to shuffle those cards, all of our cards back together. So we've got our 8-card deck.
Okay.
And then you're going to draw 6 of those cards.
Okay. I've had this kind of a plastic feeling deck in a very long time. They're really fun.
They are. I really like the feel of them. All right, I've got my 6 cards in front of me.
Same.
So here's what we're going to do. I am going to have you read. I'm trying to decide what the best way to do this is. I think the best way to do it is I am going to read you. I'll read all 8 of the statements, and then we can kind of decide which statement we want to pull on. Because we're going to assign 4 of the cards we just drew to statements in front of us.
Okay.
Either if you have a spade, the two statements for spades are this became a symbol of your involvement, or you don't know it, but this is going to be a theme of your adventures. The 2 hearts are this person was directly threatened by events, or this person was your direct opposition. Diamonds, ignoring or rejecting this threatened to bring down disaster, or this helped you avoid disaster. And clubs, the climactic showdown took place here, or this place took heavy damage.
Ooh, okay.
Now, when I am thinking this through, let me look at these diamond prompts. The only unmarked card that I have is the Ace of Diamonds, but I think I know the first state. What is there a particular statement you want to pull on?
I want to pull on, this place suffered heavy damage.
Okay. So assign one of your clubs to that card and let me know if it is marked or unmarked.
The club I pulled was my 9 of clubs, which is unmarked.
All right. If unmarked, mark the card with the ruins of place and then define what place was damaged in your first arc. The first time you sort of used your powers and became comfortable with them and you were sort of pushed to action, define the place that got hurt and then write that on your unmarked card.
Okay. Because we can be anywhere and any place, I'm going to pull from, I like the idea of whatever city that Gamna is in has some older ruins that are already kind of crumbling and have basically been incorporated into a park.
Mm.
And so they've incorporated the natural overgrown imagery of these ruins with an actual man-planted and planned park. And so it's the ruins of the ruins is a very interesting thing to call something.
I love that name though. That is an evocative name.
Yeah, so it's just like I just have this image of like it's a common imagery in Indian movies, I want to say, where people go to these old buildings, old structures, old ruins, because they're kind of everywhere. Like, the country's not big landmass-wise, so you kind of pile on top of each other. And you just sit there and you're like, you hang out with your friends there, you have picnics there. So that, I'm thinking that kind of a place of relaxation, of sitting on top of your own history in modern day, is where the ruins started. And then, of course, they have now been ruined further in more modern ways.
I love that. That is extremely, extremely good. I am going to, I've been thinking about this and I've landed on what I want to pull on. I want to pull on, I'm going to assign this diamond. It is a marked diamond. Ignoring or rejecting this, threaten to bring down disaster. And the thing that I have, because this is a super compelling thing to assign here, ignoring a world of mystery, threaten to bring down disaster.
Ooh.
Especially for a first arc, like, as a sort of, like, opening of the eye, so to speak, of I am seeing I am seeing the world for sort of the supernatural and weird place that it is. Like, that being initially very tied to, like, something kind of horrifying is extremely compelling to me.
Yes.
So, like the vibe that I get is, like, there is something horrifying that, like, after being, like, sucked up by this cloud of magical cicadas and, like, being, like spit out of it, and, like, Jerry tried to, like, go back to his life, but, like, something else, like, appeared, like some kind of monster appeared, right? Like a proper, proper creepy vampire, or like some kind of like terrifying thing emerged that like almost threatened to destroy things. And I want to like pull against the idea, maybe like I said vampire, and I kind of want to pull that back, because the idea, as I'm talking through this, the idea that this was just a weird thing that required understand, I'll figure out more of it as I play other cards, but like the idea that this was just something that required, in that very kind of Sandman-y way of like, required seeing the world in a different way, and that's what was getting people hurt, and that's kind of what needed to be addressed, rather than like an active antagonist. It was just a weird thing happened, and that required examining, and once it was understood, then it could be addressed.
Yeah, like he could no longer, maybe he tried to be recalcitrant at first, but then was just like, no, me refusing to do this is what's gonna hurt people.
It has to be, like, whatever it is has to, like, you have to acknowledge that it is a weird supernatural thing occurring in order to fully grapple with it, in however we end up defining that.
Makes sense.
All right. That. What statement would you like to pull on next?
I'm trying to figure out if putting a loved one in danger is just so classically comic book.
And it really, really is.
Unfortunately for them. And because I flat out refuse to put my grandma in danger, it's gonna be Rain. So this is a marked card, and they were directly threatened by events.
Yes. How were they threatened, and did you save them?
Yes, because we're not traumatizing Gamna just yet.
Fair. I appreciate that. I appreciate
build
that.
Up to that. So yes, Gamna did end up saving Rain, but the danger to Rain was Gamna. Because it was early days of examining her own shape-shifting powers and not knowing her own strength. And the one thing most of us know about tigers is that they gonna mess you up. So having to kind of control her own strength in a different form while being guided by different powers was Gamna's internal battle, but Rain ended up being saved. They just have no idea that it was Gamna that they were saved from.
So, I have a question for you then. Do you also have the card with your Nani, your other heart, in front of you?
I do.
Because it sounds like you're also assigning it to this person was your direct opposition. If you were saving this person from did you say Nani or Gamna was the threat?
No, Gamna was a threat.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said Nani was the threat for a second.
No, I'm just saying I do not want to put Nani in danger. She's just an old lady in India. Let's leave her alone.
I appreciate that. I respect it and I appreciate it. I, meanwhile, am actively going to put Henry in danger, I think. That's feels fair. Right. It feels right. This feels like a thing that threatened our hometown. This threatened the town of Morrison. Like, that feels right. And it feels right that, like, whatever this is, and I'm trying to think, maybe it is like, just pulling on the first weird thing that pops into my head, like, if it is properly, like, if it is like a time loop scenario, because I'm a sucker for a good time loop, like, that's, like, that is an like, the idea that, like, you have to, because if I'm pulling on supernatural things that you have to learn the rules to in order to sort of escape from.
Oh, it's so good.
The idea, and plus, like, having grown up in the country, the idea that nothing ever happens is its own kind of horror. And so, like, that exacerbated to just, like, time has frozen, and, like, plants are withering, and, like, the sun is beating down, and it has been daylight for, like, 6 weeks, and it just will not change.
Ooh.
Is good horror energy.
I love that, because it's horror, but it's not dark.
Yeah.
Literally dark.
It's just
daytime
like...
horror is a whole other, like, ooh.
I like that. I really like that energy of, like, it has just been frozen at, like, 2:15 p.m. for weeks and it's
Oof.
just stuck there. And like the danger is that like the farm is drying up, right?
Yeah,
like
getting fried under the sun.
And like and so like the very like I'm putting Henry in danger by way of saying like there are threats, you know, supernatural that like time is frozen, but like people are reacting to that, and like that is also going to put Henry in danger in a very real because if I can define the villain, I will define the villain as capitalism and say like if the farm is drying up, the bank is coming knocking, and like people are reacting to this in very human ways, and like capitalism is reacting to this in very toxic capitalist ways and being like, hey, you still gotta pay your bills even if time has been frozen.
Yeah, and I also see the other part of it, sadly to bring it to the real world, is that most of the people who don't live by the sun in the same way as the farmers do are just like, what's the big deal?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh wait, it's daytime. You get, like, it's so nice. You don't have to worry about, like, seasonal affective disorder or, you know, like, running out of daylight or whatever. That sounds wonderful without thinking of the implications of never-ending sun on your livelihood.
Yeah, I really like that.
I love that.
All right, what's the next thing you want to pull on?
Okay, let's see. So I have pulled on... What if we go for some diamonds?
All right. Would you like to say ignoring or rejecting this threatened to bring down disaster, or this helped you avoid disaster?
Oh, I think this helped me avoid disaster, because the diamond I have is my marked one, which is light through darkness.
I love that. So... you are going to describe the moment where you trusted your instincts and they were good.
Let's just to kind of wrap it into, we have the situation where Gamna and Rain and possibly some other people from the co-op are at these ruins. They're having a great old time. A threat appears. Gamna runs off, transforms, and essentially is just filled with so much rage and anger at the threat to the people she cares about, that it kind of gets a little bit uncontrollable. And that hence we get the situation of she has to save them, Rain, from herself. And I think over here, the light through darkness is the lesson of accepting that monstrosity, accepting that power. And you can't learn the bounds of your power if you're fighting them the whole time. That
feels good. I really love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, so by taking a deep breath and accepting that everything was different and that she couldn't control it in the same way as she controls other aspects of her life, she was able to actually realize the gift part of this boon instead of just the curse part.
So I am also going to pull on a diamond and pull on something that helped me avoid disaster, because I have my only unmarked card is the Ace of Diamonds that is in front of me.
Hey, I also have an Ace of Diamonds. I wonder what that's going to be.
And the thing that I like, and I'd like to mark a card in this segment, so I'm putting it there just to mark the thing, and I already did. I already ignored and rejected a thing, but this feels good. Because like I'm thinking about it, and I feel like what's right for this story beat is I'm writing down people. It's always people, because I think that like that energy feels good, right? Like if this idea of like it is frozen, it is daylight, you know, the farm is drying up. It feels like a very good energy of like, as this person who is like can like teleport through these sorts of like dust and bug clouds and has sort of chaos magic-y energy. I like that idea that like maybe what it is, and maybe the way that you understand it and eventually beat it is people in Morrison have to look out for one another. You know, like the people in sort of the city center, y'all have water cans, and like you bring the water cans out to the field. Well, like I can gather the water cans, and we kind of see, you know, he appears in a cloud and steps out and like talks to someone, and they're like, well, it's it's been days and I haven't been able to sleep. And so like he goes to the store and he gets like blackout curtains and like
Aw.
it's those little things of like organizing the community and like bringing them together to support one another in the little ways that they can is the way that like eventually, you know, whatever has settled on this time loop is bested because like the town adjusts to learning to work together learn to work together within the confines of the time loop.
I like that.
That's sick. I really am very happy with that.
Yeah.
All right, you have one more card to assign.
One more card. All right. So I am going to go with the spade I pulled, which is the 8 of spades.
Okay.
And it is predatory silence.
Is that a symbol of your involvement, or is that an ongoing theme of your adventures?
I like it being an ongoing theme of adventures. I still need to figure out how, but silence is usually portrayed as it so disquieting.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the idea of the silence evolving over time from something that is uncomfortable, something that is disquieting, to something that belies power and strength, and something you can use to your advantage.
I love that. So what does that look like in your first adventure as Gamna is transforming and is dealing with this threat? What does that silence look like this first time it sort of comes up in a very real way?
The silence in the first time when Gamna was facing this threat in her white tiger form was it was internal silence, because it was learning how to find stillness when everybody around you is panicking and screaming. And at first there was the internal battle, the push and pull of, you know, her tiger nature and the people running around, the people screaming, and being able to focus that and clear her mind and become that predator to take down the threat. And that was when she found her silence. And I think it's probably one of those moments where, like, we've talked about this, like, when a cat is silent and getting ready to pounce, that silence is not just the cat's, it emanates from the cat. Same way, the silence, I can also imagine it just, like, stopping all screams as she got ready to pounce, because everybody was just waiting with bated breath to see what happens.
That's awesome. And I think briefly, like, the last card that I'm going to assign is, like, where the climactic showdown with this, like, time loop occurs. And because I've got this club in front of me that is a farmer's market, and, like, the local farmer's market being, like, kind of, like, the place where, like, I imagine a bunch of, like, trucks and cars and, you know, like, we see some hybrid cars from the city, and we see some pickup trucks from the farmland. Like, truly, like, the town comes together at this market, and, like, it becomes, like, this very bustling space of, like, people exchanging what they need and, like, you know, turning down money and being like, tell me what you need and I got you. Like, and in that moment, like, by bringing this community together and by, like, helping the people, that is sort of when, like, the sun sets. Like, we see the sunset over this farmer's market, and it is kind of this moment, and, you know, Jerry and Henry are standing together, and, like, arm around Henry's shoulders, gives him a big kiss of, like, what it took was understanding how to interact with this supernatural presence and understanding how to support one another in a world in which these supernatural things occur.
I love that.
That's great.
And I love the visual of the farmer's market also kind of becoming like a disaster relief center.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's awesome. So here's what I would like to do.
Okay.
I'm looking at the time. I think that we've got time for 2 arcs. And I'm thinking I would love to learn more about Gamna.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Jerry, I think Cicada's in a nice place where I can set aside Cicada for a little bit.
Okay.
Bring him back for a team up, because I would love to see an arc play out with Gamna.
Okay.
I don't know which arc. If you've got a preference on the list of arcs in the book, I'll read them off for the listeners. because all of them are great. There is Adventure, which is a regular superhero adventure. There is Big Time, saving the world, not just the neighborhood. Cosmic Adventures. There is Crime Fighting. There is a crossover event, which is a big deal event for multiple players. Death, which is probably not as final as you would expect. Finding Your Place. There is Government Work. There is a Grimdark Reimagining. There is a League of Evil. There is The Mantle. Mentoring. Nemesis, Relationship, Sidekick Life, The Super Team, or Transformation.
So 2 immediately are interesting to me, and maybe will be interesting for the listeners. The ones that immediately stood out to me are Cosmic Adventure and Grimdark Retelling.
I would... I'm immediately, like, I now that you've put them both in front of me, Cosmic does seem, like... The idea of seeing Gamna, seeing the arc in which Gamna goes to space is great.
I know! It sounds so fun! What the heck is a tiger gonna do in space? I don't know, but I want to find out.
I think that's the one that I want to chase after.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. So, here's what we're going to do to set this up. Most of the card, I'm just reading through it. So for the purposes of this arc, when you draw a marked card, these are a few of your options. If it is something that makes sense, use it. If it is something that could have followed you into space or has an opportunity for you to arrive in space, arrive in a cosmic adventure, and, describe how that may have happened. Or if it's something, or maybe it's something extremely like the thing on the card, perhaps in key thematic ways, a clone, a psychic projection. Or come up with whatever is relevant, but like play off of the cards in your personal deck, however you're going to play off of them.
Okay.
Let me see if you need to add any cards. All right, so we're going to now define who or what are you pitting yourself against this time. Draw 2 cards and assign 1 to the following statements. Either the threat is this, but on a cosmic scale. The threat is derived from this person. They summoned it, created it, or are the template for it. The threat embodies this principle taken too far, or the threat is this place given sentience, or if it's a group working as a hive mind.
Oh, okay. All right, let's see. Come on, cards. All of those sound like really fun things to do. 2 very normal options. Okay, so first card is the 8 of Diamonds, and the second is the 7 of Spades. The 8 of Diamonds is Light Through Darkness. And the 7 of Spades is unmarked.
Would you like to do an unmarked card or a marked card?
I think let's go with the unmarked card because we're in space, damn it.
All right. Mark the card with a god, space, empire, or sentient celestial phenomenon.
Okay, I will do that.
What is the first big cosmic-y thing that comes to your mind?
I like space gods.
Space gods feels good. I'm a sucker. I am an absolute sucker for a good space god.
I like the idea of we can just pick the equivalent of like a pantheon or a group of gods, but they're actually just deeply old, powerful beings in space.
Yeah.
And we're going to stick thematically because Skamna's powers come from Indian themes. We're going to stick with Indian gods. Let's see if I can manage to make this non-Hindu Indian gods, because that's always a challenge.
Now you're going to draw 2 cards. You're going to draw 2 more cards and assign 2 to the following statements. The threat is accumulating power by consuming other powerful things. It is expanding by co-opting leaders and influential individuals. It is attacking reality directly. Or it is taking control of places and populations en masse.
Ooh, okay. The cards that I drew are the 8 of Spades, which is Predatory Silence. I can do some cool stuff with that. Okay.
That's really cool, is the thing.
And the other one is the 10 of Clubs, which is my little co-op. I am very, very, okay, we're gonna go with Predatory Silence. Lean into the predatory nature of it. Mm-hmm. And the threat is accumulating power because human beings are growing more silent on average. People are speaking less. People are making less noise. People are falling into a stillness that is deeply unnatural and deeply unnerving. And it plugs right into that uncanny valley part of your brain where it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Going into park and hearing nothing, being on the subway, and there are no sounds of movement or rustling, people clicking through apps on their phones, nothing. It's just stillness.
That's so cool. All right. Draw 2 more cards and assign 1 to the following statements. The threat wants you or your power specifically. This person has attracted the attention of the threat. The threat feels you're supporting this principle incorrectly, or the threat is coming for your home planet, dimension, or etc.
The cards I pulled here are the 9 of Clubs and the Ace of Diamonds. The Ace of Diamonds is unmarked. The 9 of Clubs is the ruin of the ruins. I'm kind of tempted to go with marking the Ace of Diamonds.
Okay.
The threat feels that you're supporting a principle incorrectly.
So, if unmarked, mark that card with something you believe, but wouldn't kill for, and why would the gods prefer that you do that, and why won't you?
Ooh, let's pick on some philosophical dilemmas. There's the classic, I will pick. Everybody wants to say that if it came to someone they love versus a bigger group of people that they don't know or care for, that they would pick they would play the numbers game.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to say that. It's hard to do that. And I think that's, let's break it down simplistically to the concept of the greater good, that sometimes sacrifice are needed for the greater good, but there's an unwillingness to sacrifice what she loves. You know, she wants to find either a way out or find a way to sacrifice herself instead of the people she loves. And I can see the gods being like, individuals don't matter. Like, this, if the choice is between Rain and 10 people, or between your Nani and 10 people, you have to pick the 10 people.
And can I throw you a pitch that ties some things together?
Yes, please.
If this silence is a supernatural presence, right? If this silence is like its own space god that is like the form of this silence, and it is consuming, maybe it is that, like, maybe for the greater, maybe the stance of the space gods is like, if it is already taking Earth, we have to stop it at Earth before it gets anywhere else. And it's like, and then that's that idea of like, well, Earth is my home, like that idea that like
Earth is everything I know and love.
Because if it's on a cosmic scale, that idea of like, well, the whole planet's got to go.
Oh, I love that. All
right, so now you can pull. I'm gonna have you draw from your other deck, your main deck of cards, the full deck until you draw a heart or spade, and then you're gonna set that card aside.
Okay, and so by full deck, you mean my deck of 8 or my deck of...
Deck of 52 minus 8, whatever that number is.
All right.
I'm not doing math today. How dare you?
No, we're superheroes. When was the last time a punchy superhero did math? Like, okay, I'm not Iron Man.
No.
Okay, a heart or a spade?
A heart or a spade. And you're going to mark that with the leader of the threat. And that can be the source of the silence, or the particular god that is sort of demanding that Earth be torn asunder.
Okay, I am picking I got the 4 of spades. And we're going to go with, I'm going to be generic, the goddess of prosperity. Who believes, I guess, that there is no more prosperity to be had on Earth. It is time.
They are running, like, words have run out. The prosperity has died. All right. So you're going to now have your first stand against the cosmic threat.
Ooh, okay.
You're going to draw 4 cards and assign 2 to the following statements. If you run out of cards in your deck, you'll just pick them all up and shuffle them and then keep drawing.
So we're back to my personal deck?
Yes.
Okay, I only have 2 cards left.
So you'll draw those 2 cards and then shuffle the other 6 and draw the remaining 2 from the cards you've discarded.
Okay, so the 2 I drew are my Queen of Hearts, which is Rain, and the 3 of Hearts, which is my Nani. And 2 more cards. Okay, I've got the 10 of Clubs, which is the co-op, and the 7 of Spades, which is the Space God.
All right.
Space gods.
So the statements that you're going to assign 2 cards to is this flavors the entire confrontation, or this plays a brief but crucial role in the clash. Those are both spades. Your hearts are this person's interference costs you a hard-fought victory, or this person pulls you out of the fire when all seems lost. Diamonds, you display this principle while fighting, or you could have defeated the threat, but in doing so would cause damage to reality, or the laws of reality make them undefeatable at this time. And then clubs, this place is where the main conflict happened, or you lead this group against the threat, or they lead it against you.
Okay. Immediately, I want to deputize the co-op.
Okay, yep, love it.
I just love a bunch of these, like, sort of hippie, mostly chill people living in a co-op together, you know, just trying to survive under capitalism. Just being like, man, screw this. We're used to terrible odds. We're not accepting defeat. I feel like that's basically the millennial...
That feels good. I like that.
Survival statement, right? Like, everything's been against us the whole time. It's fine.
That feels great.
We know how to fight diminishing odds. So, I will be leading the co-op against the threat to our planet.
What other... you are going to assign 1 more card. Do you want to flavor the confrontation, play a brief but crucial role, have someone interfere, pull someone out of the fire, display a principle, or be unable to display a principle, or describe where the fight happens?
I feel like, since I have 2 hearts here, I gotta draw on one of them. I want, because I think it's just a very sweet storytelling mechanic, I would like my Nani to pull us out of the fire when all seems lost.
I really like that. Now, here's my question. Does Nani have her power still or not?
Nani does not have power still. It is a mantle that is passed down, and, like, it's by no means meant to, like, grant you immortality. Right. But it's a tool to help you, to make sure there's always somebody who can do somebody who can protect, somebody who can fight. And so, Nani's, man, like, she's a retired prize fighter. Like, she's out here enjoying her life in retirement, and, I also see, Nani just being one of those people who's like, okay, well, I may not have my power to fight, but I've still got the body that I have, and when it comes to cosmic threats, and I'm sure her own experiences being the tiger, she knows that sometimes a little slice of humanity is what it takes instead of massive amounts of power.
I love it. I really, really love it. Which brings us to the twist. We have our battle. Well, I guess the questions that I have to ask is, what does the initial clash look like, and do you win? I
think we're having a space fight.
Yeah.
Because the goddess of prosperity is sending down, is collecting powers to destroy our planet Earth. And we're mounting a resistance. And so the clash looks like a dope space fight.
Yeah.
I feel like as things grow most silent, I think people are falling more still. So I just also have this image of, like, the co-op just being like, one of the people in the co-op is obviously some, like, works for a literal brain trust, and it's just like, oh yeah, I know people who have access codes, we can just take it from them because they're not moving or talking. So we just, like, walk in and get our, like, super secret space flight capable planes to go have this fight, and we have a fight in outer space.
I like that.
I don't know how a tiger gets involved, but it does happen.
Sick. Love it. Awesome. Which brings us to the twist. The battle is unfolding, right? The battle is unfolding and the threat's true plan is revealed. You're going to draw 4 cards and either assign 1 or 2, depending on how we feel, to the following statements. This was key in your discovery of what the threat was really up to. That's a spade. Heart, this person knew everything and spilled the beans. Diamonds, this someone who shares this principle defects from the threat's service and brings vital info. Or clubs, this threat left clues here, which tells you what their real goal is.
So the next 4 cards are the 4 leftover, and I like the idea of the diamond, which is greater good over personal desires.
Mm.
and someone who shares this principle defects from the threat service, it is another god. Because that sounds right.
That feels good. That's good godly drama.
If you're gonna defeat a god, you gotta get gods involved.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Who'd be a fun god to fight the goddess of prosperity? I mean, we could. I mean, we could just go with the god of dreams.
God of Dreams is good. God of Dreams is real good. I mean,
how do you have dreams without people?
If there is a brief comic book story about the creation of Thanos in Marvel Comics, where Thanos, the artist, originally drew Thanos to look very specifically like Metron from the New Gods.
Oh, nice.
Put him in a little chair, put the little hands in front of his face, and the editor at the time looked at it and went, If you're gonna steal from the most popular, and that is why they redesigned him to look like Darkseid. And all of that is to say, if we're gonna be stealing vibes from Sandman, we may as well steal Sandman.
Well, exactly.
So I like the God of Dreams is very, very good.
Yes, and I can also see the God of Dreams having a good reason to defect from greater good over personal desires, because dreams are personal.
Well, then I am going to have you shuffle your deck, draw 6 cards, and this is the hardline battle. This is the ultimate showdown.
Here's my question: the Goddess of Prosperity card that I drew earlier, is that in my deck?
Shuffle that into your deck. I think I want that, especially for this at this moment. I want that in the deck.
That's why I wanted to ask. Okay, all right. I'm drawing 4.
Yeah.
Okay. Boom. And okay, we have the Ace of Diamonds again, which is now the God of Dreams.
All right.
We've got 7 of Spades, which are space gods generally. The rest of them. We have the 10 of Clubs, which is my co-op friends. And then we have Queen of Hearts, which is my on-again, off-again partner, Rain. So the statements I'm assigning...
the statements that you are assigning there are 3 options for Spades. You use your powers to their fullest against the threat. Something about you in particular makes you invulnerable to the threat's mightiest attacks. This weighs in to tilt the scales of the conflict in your favor. Hearts, this person tries to sacrifice themselves to contain the threat. You communicate with the threat somehow, and your victory is at least one of words as much as struggle. Diamonds, the threat holds to a code of sorts, and so you know what it will not do. The threat's actions are undermining its own victory, all you have to do to survive. And the key to your victory is indefatigable will. Something about the nature of this place supports you in your struggle, or you have the backing of an army, community, or organization that you didn't have before.
I'm tempted to go grand in this, and so I'm thinking the 7 of Spades, which is the rest of the space gods. And I like them weighing in to tilt the scales of conflict in your favor.
Cool. That's cool.
I see this being a thing where it's God against God, it's forces against forces, and like this just being this deep standstill and a battle that is both massive but also quiet, and the other space gods eventually just being like, get your shit together.
I really like that. That's cool. I love that. So you have 3 more statements to assign.
3 more statements. Okay. I like the idea of Rain trying to sacrifice themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's appropriate for a comic book.
It is.
But I will not let them do it.
I like that.
But I do not let them because of the aforementioned issue with personal preferences over greater good. And
I like that conflict turning micro and macro at the same time. That's sick.
Yeah. So while I was saving them though, they think the sacrifice was necessary. I'm trying to think about what it's hard when you think about things on a cosmic scale. Like, what does one human think their own sacrifice is going to do for the cosmic scale? My guess is, as somebody who has been an intellectual rival for me for a long time, I do think that Rain probably tried to go make a deal.
That's great. That's really good.
Rain tried to go make a deal with the goddess of prosperity to see what she could do, and then what they could do. And I said, no, that's not acceptable. We're going to find another way out of this. And I want to say that probably as a result of this, my tiger form sustained some very drastic damage.
Cool. Can I go completely rogue? This is our game, so we can change the rules as needed.
Always.
Can you pull a heart out of your 40-some card deck, whatever the first heart card you pull up is?
I sure can. Let's find out. 5 of hearts. Here we go.
Can you write on that card the cicada?
Oh, yes.
Because I would love for this, I'm thinking this through, and I'm like, we could do a full team up arc after this. It might run this episode long, which I would be okay with, but I'm also like, this also just feels like a good opportunity to, if this is a comic, bring in that character,
yes.
right? This feels like that moment of what it, that character appears to play a role in the fight. I'm not sure. Let me look at the hardline prompts. What if, and that also ties into the, what he did last time of, using word, if it's that he plays a role in this as, a person of the people and as a, entity of the people, this feels like a great opportunity for that character. The end of an issue for that character to show up in a cloud of things and be like, we do this by working together, and we supporting in that way. That just that feels like a good crossover opportunity, and that also means that card exists in your deck, and that's a fun little touch.
Yes, I like that. Because once again, what's a better opportunity to get other heroes involved than, the entire world being at stake?
That feels like the right opportunity for that moment.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. What's next then?
So how many cards have you assigned? I think that's 3.
Yes. So we have Space Gods, Rain, and the Cicada.
Do you want to assign one more?
Okay. Let's see, what did I pull? I like this just feels personal and human to me. The key to your victory is indefatigable, indefatigable. I don't know how to pronounce it. I've only read that word.
It's a word that I've read, and I subscribe to the belief that it's a good thing when you see a word and you can't pronounce it because it means you learned it via a book.
Exactly.
But I'm staring at this word and I'm like, the podcaster in me's like, nope.
The will that shan't be defeated.
Yes.
I like that. That seems very human.
I like that a lot.
Very, Captain America, I could do this all day.
I like that. I really like that energy.
And the diamond I have in hand is, ironically, the ideal greater good over personal desires. And you keep fighting for it.
Yeah.
Your personal desire to stop doesn't matter. Your personal desire to lay down and throw your weapons down doesn't matter.
And that ties in nicely to that, if I can throw in a note, I think. And maybe this is maybe also a close-up shot on Cicada, watching this, and we kind of get whatever weird effect Cicada's narration bubbles have, we kind of see that play out.
Yeah.
Whatever kind of weird bubble effect we see, because he's a horror character and he's gonna have weird narration bubbles. We kind of see that because, what I'm hearing and what I want to propose to you is, what that tells me is that your desire to fight for your friends and the people that you live for and care about is so strong that that's what turns the will of the gods themselves in your favor.
Ooh, yes. I like that.
And whatever eldritch being is, silencing the world, that is what turns the gods to say, no, we fight together, and, It brings the gods onto your side to undo this cosmic thing on the in one sort of magical moment.
Yeah. It comes down to a big, we're not done yet.
Yeah. And so we have one final question.
Okay.
Do you this threat, this thing that is silencing the world, do you imprison it, do you destroy it, or do you drive it off?
I don't know. I would say that if it were just Gamna, I'd be like, I don't know if she's got the power to destroy it. But when you have the cicada with you, I feel like this is a good opportunity for a team up.
This is.
You got bugs and you got a tiger. You got them fighting together.
And so this sounds like a horror. This sounds like a horror antagonist, right? Like this, like whatever is like an entity that has driven the world silent. Sounds like that sounds like an antagonist that first showed up in the Cicada's like solo book.
Oh, absolutely. And I also like the idea that the cicada is by pure nature, an antithesis to silence.
Mm-hmm. So what the visual that I'm going to propose, if I may, I've got a visual in mind. I'm going to say that this entity is known as the Sequestered Archivist. They are an entity, like, they embody as a writer surrounded by notebooks and journals that their library of filled out notebooks is like the words of the universe are in this thing, right? Like, and I think that like having been awoken and having been like brought into existence has taken the words of the universe and placed them into its journals. So, and the vibe, you saying the cicada is naturally like like an oppositional force to silence. The idea of every person on Earth like letting out like a brief, powerful scream is cool as hell. Like that is such a cool like undoing of this like silent entity and like all of these books bursting into flames in one giant moment. Yeah. I think destroy is the right option because that feels kind of horrifying and kind of cathartic and kind of just big and fantastical in a way that is sick.
Yes. Oh. And it also it puts me in mind of classical Indian wisdom and the power of the Om being the sound that reverberates through the universe, and drawing that in a horror way, the screams let out by humanity once they have broken the bounds of the silence, reverberating so powerfully as one.
That's so
that it
cool.
Destroys this creature is chef's kiss.
I love that. That's so sick. And so there's one thing that I'd like to propose.
Okay.
This is a 2-part thing.
Mm-hmm.
1 part for the story and 1 part to you, Puja, my friend.
Okay.
I think that, like, as that happens, right? Like, we are kind of standing in the ruins of the ruins. I think, Cicada, I don't even necessarily... I'm now visualizing him in my head. I don't even think he wears a costume. I think it's in that Sandman vein of, like, he's just in his
a guy.
jeans. He's just kind of an odd-looking guy that, like, has maybe, like, some swirling mist around him, like, as, like, a point of course.
There's always that bug flying around him that, you can do the, like, the hand... But he doesn't do the hand swat?
No.
Other people want to?
Hands comfortably in the pockets as, like, a small number of bugs sort of swirl around, and, like, they're kind of met with, like, a swirling dust cloud.
Yeah.
I think he stands there, they stand in the ruins of the ruins, and he looks around, and he says to Gamna, "We have much bigger things to deal with." And so that's the story beat, and the thing that I want to propose to you, Puja, my friend, I think that we're gonna need to do a part 2 of this episode.
Hell yeah!
I think that these characters have more adventures to tell, and I have more cards to write shit on.
Yes.
I think we'll get this on the calendar, but I think if you would like to come back and continue these stories, I would like that very much.
100% yes. Ooh, maybe we can go grimdark next time.
Maybe we can go grimdark next time. That feels like a good twist.
Yeah.
But this was sick. Puja, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was a blast and a half. I am absolutely beaming.
I had the best time. Telling stories with you is always super fun.
It's the most fun.
I'm sure we'll be doing more storytelling together in a couple of weeks. Anyway, before we record again. So
this is true. This is true. Yeah. So real quick, before we wrap up, where can people find you and your work online?
The best place to find me is on Twitter, where I am at Puja, Puja, and that usually has my streaming schedule in the link. And otherwise, Pujabberwocky on all other platforms where I was not quite as early an adopter.
All right. Well, my friend, thank you so much. And until we play together again, this has been so much fun. And for now, I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap up with the show. Take it, future me. Thanks, past me. And thanks again to Puja for coming on to the show. Here's the thing. I really love superhero comics. I'm pretty sure that's well known at this point, but like, this episode was such a wonderful distillation of like what I love in superhero comics, and like getting to share that story with a good friend was just like a really wonderful experience that I'm extremely, extremely grateful for. I've had a smile on my face since we played this game. I could not have enjoyed it more, and I cannot wait to put part 2 on our calendar so that we can put a little bit more superhero adventure into our lives. Be sure to follow Puja on Twitter at Puja, then be sure to follow all of the Twitch streams that she's on because they're all very, very good. And be sure to head to the show notes for your own copy of CSUX currently on Kickstarter. Back it, help make it a reality because I really want this game to be a thing. Then while you're on Twitter, follow us at Party of One Pod, like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/partyofonepodcast. Join our Discord community at bit.ly/partyofonediscord. And if you enjoyed the show, you can consider leaving us a nice iTunes review on Apple or Spotify. I don't know why I forgot that. You can recommend the show to a friend or shout us out on social media. You can support the show financially at patreon.com/JeffStormer or ko-fi.com/JeffStormer. Or you can head to bit.ly/partyofonmerch and pick up a Party of One t-shirt. Once you have done all of that, and I'll know when you've done all of that, and don't think that you can skip ahead. If after all that you're looking for another podcast to listen to, check out All My Fantasy Children, a character creation, storytelling, and world-building podcast on the One Shot Podcast Network, in which every week my best friend Aaron Catano-Saez and I take a listener-submitted prompt, we spin it into an original fantasy character, and we populate a shared universe one story at a time. New episodes drop every Friday-ish at oneshotpodcast.com. You can also check out Yazeba's Bed and Breakfast, a 4-episode miniseries about a heartless witch, a peaceful house, and the many people making their home inside. That show recently won Best of the Best in fiction podcasting at New Jersey WebFest, which I am still not done freaking out about. And you can find it at tinyurl.com/Yazeba's-podcast. Now then, Party of One is produced and edited, as always, by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. All music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Megaran, featuring the D&D Sluggers, and the Party of One logo is by Evan Rowland. If you'd like to inquire about advertising rates, coming onto the show as a guest, or about press coverage of the show, you can email me at partyofonepodcast@gmail.com. And finally, before we wrap things up, another call out for the Party of One year-end Patreon drive. Head to patreon.com/JeffStormer or ko-fi.com/JeffStormer between now and the end of the year to help us pay for better guest payments and editing support and to pay ourselves for our time. We've got exclusive rewards and milestones for sequel episodes and side episodes and live episodes, as well as new Patreon exclusive content that I don't think you're going to want to miss. We really hope that you'll check that out and consider backing. And I believe with all of that said, I think that's all we do here. So until next time, thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that self-love and self-care are radical and defiant acts of resistance. And as always, party on, everybody.